Hello guys and welcome to Scale Model World 2022. Now grab a cup of tea or some food and just prepare for the ultimate guide to the show. Now I've put chapters in, so don't watch this all in one go. Obviously this is a massive video, but I didn't want to leave anyone out, so hopefully I've got everyone. I have a horrible feeling that you missed someone, so if I have, I really apologise, but I've tried to capture every single stand that I can, because not everyone can make it to the shows, and I feel it's important to just try and highlight every single club that I can so that you might be able to find something that you enjoy. So use the chapters, watch this in little chunks. We're going to start though by having a look at what some of the manufacturers have. So we've got Airfix here showing off their beautiful 148 scale Buccaneer alongside some of their favourite models. So, you know, we've got the V-Force there, we've got the new Meteor, and, oh, what's this? Is this the new Avro Anson? Don't worry, I'll have a look at that in a moment, just showing you some of the Club Airfix stuff as well, like the first to last Hawk, which was this year's kit. So, the new Avro Anson, hopefully setting the standard for the 172nd kit, because this one is in 148 scale, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. Even I wanted to buy it and make it, but I just don't have room for 148 scale, but the sprues look absolutely incredible, and it looks actually kind of nice and relaxing to build, but we'll see how people get on with it. The talk of town for Airfix is the 124th scale Spitfire, and though I have no intentions of building it, I can't deny how absolutely stunning it is. But also at the show we do have Tamiya with artillery as well, with some of the subsequent brands like Dragon. Now Tamiya obviously showing their, what a lot of people have said is the safe choice for release, an F-35 on a larger scale. But who knows, maybe they just saw the current climate and thought, no, we just want something guaranteed to sell, because it definitely will. I mean, it's in everyone's service. There's massive Lancia Delta as well, which I'm starting to get the urge to want to buy, which shocks me. And then we've just got kits sprued around the back. Oh, get it? Vendors did seem fewer at this show, but we have places like Models for Sale, where I spent far too much money, Free Model Shop, which seems to be coming from strength to strength, and Wonderland Models, who are a staple of here and also Ria. Now, going back to entering the show, I got there at just past 9, and this was the queue to get in for members. It took me about 20 minutes. It's mad. But we're going to start by having a look at the international displays, because these were very absent last year, which is completely understandable given all the restrictions that were in place. And this Canadian display celebrating the Canadian Air Force and the Snowbirds display team, I absolutely adore. Obviously anything display team I was always going to love, and the Snowbirds are one I've never got to see live, so being able to see all of their liveries was just really stunning. They did a fantastic job on this display. It was really well laid out, really actually kind of exciting, because it was just a lot of unusual liveries that we don't really see. And you can see sort of the sentries at the back as well, like, again, something else you never see. Now this 2017 display, oh my god, if someone has decals for this, I need them. They are gorgeous, and this is the 50th anniversary display scheme. Now we have the Golden Hawks at the back as well, which was also dedicated to with the sentries. So here we are, the Golden Sentries, and what an amazing way to start this video. We're now heading over to Switzerland with Bern Model Club. I still had no idea how they managed to travel without breaking any of their models, but that aside, what a lovely display. I love the dedication to the Flugwaffen there with all the Saab aircraft. You can see the Lancen on top as well, but the Drachen Viken and 21. Then we've got this beautiful little display with the PZL P11, and I mean a G50, obviously that was always going to make it into the video because it's me. We've got this Eldari jet bike as well, which looks really stunning, and this Rolls-Royce armoured car, which I just thought was kind of cute, honestly. And then we've got this Stiltbird. I couldn't find out what this is from, so if anyone knows, let me know in the comments. We're now heading over to IPMS Netherlands. Now, I thought this display was really interesting. There's a lot of 3D printed parts, which is obviously something that's becoming more and more prevalent in the modelling space, and it was really nice to see it explained really through the actual table itself. And obviously that Falcon D21 is gorgeous, so we're gonna have a look at that first, because obviously I love this aircraft, and yeah, the detailing on this is absolutely amazing. Now the 3D printed parts for Warhammer 40k I thought looked actually really cool, and I've never really seen it in person, so seeing it was just amazing, especially with these cartoony MiG-21s as well. It really makes you realise how much 3D printing is really going to dominate the modelling space in the years' time. I'm going to say this wrong, but this is from Kurpfalz in Germany, and this display I thought just really showed why Germans are amazing at modelling. The attention to detail was stunning. I love the Swedish tank. It's just looks almost like a toy, but like I mean that in a positive way. It just looks so well finished. And I love seeing things that are less thought of, like this truck pulling a carriage. Now we're moving on to IPMS Germany, who had a really strong contingent of Pokemon, and non-traditional modelling means sort of situated on their display, which again I feel is really important to help encourage people to join the modelling space who might be unsure of it. And I may or may not have some Pokemons to do myself. Got Piplup and Mew here looking so cute. And then we've got this R2Y1, which I've always thought is just an amazing looking Japanese aircraft. And we've also got a KI-78 here as well, which was really small, like really small. I didn't even know this aircraft existed. And this tractor as well, which has got a sort of flower with it. I'm finishing off with Eevee because Eevee is just the cutest. We're now heading over to the Netherlands armed group, and they have Stroopwafel. And yeah, I noticed that with a couple of the Dutch ones, as they had Stroopwafel or other treats, which was really nice to see. Really an advantage of getting in early. And for some reason they had cows that were bobsleighing. I just thought this was amazing. And I was trying to work out what the tank this was because I thought it was a Leopard, but I don't think it is. This crashed D21 scene though, I don't know why, but for whatever reason it just has so much more to it than I thought it did. Like the grass lines, the grass itself being so uneven, actually looking like a proper field, and the expression on the soldier's face as well, like it just really looked authentic to me. I really love this diorama. I think it's one of the best hands. I know it's early in the video, but it's one of the best hands-on I've ever seen, to be perfectly honest. I loved it. But this wouldn't be the only Netherlands display, of course. We've also got Modelbrouwers, or which says it's brewers in English, which I think is like a shop from what I could see online. But they were just sort of showing off their bills, and I'm assuming what is potentially some of their parts that they sell. I'm not really too sure, but again, really like the display and more treats. Honestly, don't come to IPMS if you want to stay skinny, because it's not a good idea. But yeah, Star Wars stuff to start us off, which looks absolutely great, like really true to life. And I love little things like this little scooter. It just looks so cute. And we've got a Fuga Magister as well. I mean, this will be the first of many Fugas we see during the course of this video, obviously. When we're heading over now to IPMS Israel, and again, a really lovely display. I always thought the Israeli camouflage looks really stunning. It like really pops, and that was never more true than on models such as these, particularly when we're going to see now the Gloucester Gladiators with the P51 lined up. I don't know, the camo just really pops. And this is an S199, which obviously we've built in a previous video as well. I did mine in the camo scheme though. And just look at the yellow on this Meteor, it just looks amazing. We're now heading over to IPMS Serbia, who suggested I visit their show. So should I do that? Should I go see them in March? Maybe I should. I love looking at the Serbian display because they feature a lot of Yugoslavian aircraft. So like the Soko J22 that we'll see in a moment, the G4 Super Galeb, and I just love them. So here's the J22 Areo, which, you know, a lot of people compare to, say, like the Jaguar. It's still currently in service. And this is the Soko G4 Super Galeb in the Flying Stars display team colours. This is an IK3, which I always thought or viewed as like sort of the Yugoslavian Hurricane. Now we also have things like this SN79, which I've never seen in the scheme, and I think it looks wonderful. But we can't stay in Serbia forever. We're moving on now to L'Art Créatif Sans Frontières, which I was blown away by this display. And now, from what I overheard, I didn't speak to them directly, but I think they sell a lot of their base parts maybe. But it's a really interesting display, seeing all the different styles of modelling. There's a lot of sort of, they're not entirely 2D, but sort of those flat style white metal style models, which I personally find really appealing, particularly the box we'll have a look at in a moment, which is showing you sort of a really dynamic scene of soldiers sort of laid to rest. Now, these dioramas as well just have so much movement in them for, obviously a static model. Honestly, I don't know how they do it. The painting is impeccable. Now, this is what I was on about with the soldiers laying to rest. They just look so, well, there's so many emotions going on. Some of them are happy, some of them look exhausted. And it's just so cool. It sort of like reminds me of old Victorian cartoon style drawings. It's just, I love it. I love it so much. I wish I had it on my wall at home. But yeah, as I say as well, we're going to have a look at some of the dioramas they had as well, because their figure painting, as you can see here, both in range and quality, is just absolutely fantastic. This is more of sort of the white metal, I'm assuming, sort of flat parts though, and they're in sort of baubles. They look amazing. I would not trust them on my tree with my cat though. Now, these are some of the dioramas, and I've not shown all of them in full. Some of them I will, but I just wanted you to sort of see the expressions on them, and I just love these. I wish I was as skilled a painter as they are. Now we're moving over to Bodensee in Germany. So again, another German display. There were quite a few of them here, I think you'll find. I do really love that they chose to use like these curvy bases. It really does make them pop. Nothing wrong with having flat, squared off bases, just I thought it was a really interesting artistic choice. There were a lot of Dutch things on this display, including this famous Fokker pusher-puller aircraft, which never really saw any main production, but I absolutely adore. Moving on to Belgium now then. So this is the first of the Belgium displays here. This is just IPMS Belgium, however. And is it just me, or does Belgium, like, markings and camo just work on everything? Like, it just always seems to just fit, even when I play Warzone I find that. And I mean, look at this HS748, for example, it just looks right. And this Airbus in Belgian Defence Forces markings as well. Like, it just always looks really nice. I think it's just the colouring, to be fair, of the red, yellow and black. And we've got some airliners here, including from their former carrier, Sabina. Moving over to Brussels, though, an absolutely lovely city. Been twice, I think, now. And I really love the Alpha Jets on this one. I've always loved the red Alpha Jet scheme that the Belgians used once. I wish they'd done a Red Devils display team with the Alpha Jet, but, it is what it is. Tornado looking absolutely stunning as well. And this Dutch F-16. I had to shoot this in a weird way to try and get it to show. And yeah, this man lying in bed as well. I don't know why this was there. I just thought it was amusing. We're now moving over to Ireland, our closest international partner here, celebrating 100 years of the Irish Air Corps. Obviously at Fairford, which I have a video on as well, we had a display by the Irish Air Corps reformed display team, the Silver Swallows, and you'll see that they're featured quite heavily here with the Fouga Magisters that they formerly flew, now flying obviously PC-9s. This display did a really good job of showing you the full history of the Irish Air Corps. Obviously for me, the Fougas stole the show because they always do, but it was so many interesting ways of laying out their display and really showing what Ireland has to offer. Excuse me for butchering your name, but we're now moving on to Loiret. I really tried to pronounce that as best as I could, so I do apologise. This is a French model club, and it's really nice to see them here again. Like, there were so many absent last year, which I understand. It's just nice that they're all here this year and we can see the unusual models that are on display here. Well, I mean, what you're seeing now is a prime example, including this really bizarre AG4, which I didn't even know was a thing, and this HS123 in Chinese nationalist markings as well. Staying within France, we're moving on to Boulonnais. There is one model in particular that I thought was really interesting on display here. Not that they all weren't good, just that I'd never seen it before, which is this helicopter that you can see in the middle here. I really do like that plaque as well. It's really cool that it's incorporating sort of aspects of modelling and crafting that are so important. Now this is a kit, from what I can see, was sort of unique to that expo in 2016 that Hella did. Like, what? This is also an Airfix kit, by the way. Not sure on this though, this Russian pilot scene, but again, absolutely top-notch quality. Moving over to IPMS Slovakia, as you can see, a lot of really interesting choices on display here, which I mean in a really positive way, because things that you never see. So we've got this tractor with a wife and a child, and we've also got this Tatra delivery sort of trike thing, which I just love. It's so quirky. Next to the Citroën Fantomas, which is just like, what the hell? It's amazing. I've also only just realized on this diorama, doesn't he have a Christmas hat on? Okay, I never even realized that. And this tank recovery scene, which I just thought was dynamic. Shout out to Portugal. However, it looks like they were unable to attend the show. Whether or not they're there on Sunday, I wasn't sure, but I ended up going on the Saturday. And yeah, here is Berlin's display. Not a fan of the really high plastic, I'm going to be really honest. It's a bit of a barrier, but I get it for kids. Love this anatomical like frog model. I just thought that was really unique, really cool. I've never seen anything quite like that. And of course the BF109, like what would that be without it, which again looks amazing. Following on from Berlin, then we have Kolne Pirates. There were two from Cologne that I saw next to each other. This one had a focus on larger scale models, which, you know, 148 scale upwards. This is a target drone built by an Australian company, which I saw a few of, which I really didn't expect to see. Bit bizarre, to be perfectly honest. And this Atlas Cheetah as well, which looks amazing. So from the Kolne Pirates, we're now moving on to the IPMC Kolne, and this one has a very aircraft heavy display, obviously, as I think you can see. But I love it. And right at the end, there was like a French display, like a French airfield display from like the post-war era, I believe, given some of the aircraft on the display. We're going to get like a little video going through it as well, but I did take some pictures, and this really did sort of steal their table for me, so please don't hate me for sort of ignoring some of it, because I just thought this was a really, really cool layout, and I couldn't resist just taking loads of pictures of it. This is only one of a few sort of large-scale airfield displays that we're going to see during the course of the show, because they do require an insane amount of work, and I can imagine how finicky and difficult they are once you get them, you know, to the display. It's a bit bad together, but I just think they look stunning. Yeah, I love this so much. It's so adorable. I would never be able to do something like this, and now have the room for the storage. Oh, I've only just noticed there's an aircraft inside the hangar as well that I didn't see. Oh, blast. I guess we'll have to take guesses in the comments about what model that is, because I'm not sure. And we've got this Air France Transvaal C160 in the freighter scheme. We're now moving over to the Czech display, and they had all these sort of 1144 scale models. They took the top off for me so I could take some pictures of them. I thought these were incredible. I love 1144 scale models. I would never build them, they're too finicky for me, but I just think they look amazing, and it's so cool to get so much into a display because you have smaller models. I absolutely adore it, particularly because they could show off some of the, you know, indigenous track builds, for example, like, you know, the glider at the back as well. It was just really, really nice to see. I love this, and there's a B534 as well. This isn't an actual international display, this is just a Romanian SIG, but again, I sort of felt it fitted into this bit. Heavy presence on the Romanian World War II fighter, the IRR 81, and a couple of sort of marked aircraft like the Heinkel HE11s in front as well, and some of the modern aircraft, like they're one of the last users of the MiG-21 still, which, again, I've seen at Fairford, which is just an incredible experience to behold. I really love this indigenous built Puma, the IRR 330. And this display of the Bucharest Aviation Museum just makes me a bit sad because the aircraft are outside and are deteriorating a little bit, which if you see these photos, it's true to life. Now, I don't think this was an international display. Again, I think this is an Italian SIG. I unfortunately did not get a clear picture or write down whether it was a SIG or an international display, but given where it was, I'm assuming it was a SIG. Again, fantastically laid out. Really loved the Italian display team aircraft that were here, although there were fewer than I expected there to be. But I love the two CSs they had, MC 200s next to the old school boxing, and this Italian Tornado is like gorgeous, like so stunning. Again, here's the other MC 200 in the varied scheme. Right, following on from Italy then, we're going to some of the British displays. So this is York and District. Now, York and District have a really heavy, packed display, and this is the first thing you actually saw when you walked in the door. Now, we did the international stuff first just because I wanted to show them off, but this was actually the first thing I saw walking in. Perhaps a more traditional display in the sense that it's a lot of models all sort of parked facing the same direction. It's very old school style, but I still loved it because every model was of such high quality, and you did get some unique things like this Russian sort of snowmobile tankette. Next door to them then was the New Zealand SIG, which I think was this part of the table as well, from what I could work out. So if it's not, I do apologise. I was just going from sort of markings I could see around. Now, the New Zealand SIG, I've actually seen it a couple of shows already this year, including, I think, Milton Keynes, and we also saw them at Lincoln. So, you know, ever present on the model display circuit, but really refreshing and lovely to see. Just a really varied, lovely display. Oh, and also, being able to see the two display team aircraft they had, such as the MB339 when they had that for a very short-lived display team, and their current mount, the PC9. Remember earlier when I said there would be other airfield displays? Well, this is one of them. This is showing the sort of interwar years. I think they described it as the pre-war years because it's before the Second World War. It's just a sort of a general aviation, civil aviation field. I love everything about this. Like, oh my god, look at the dogs. If you really got sort of down at eye level with it, perhaps as you might think a kid would when it's on a table, being able to see the backdrop, it just looks incredible. I really, really love this. I did this with my Patrouille de Rouen series, where I sort of tried to get a background to it, and it just really does help bring the models to life. So absolute respect for that airfield. It looks amazing. We then go to the Warriors though with Bomber Command. This was a really interesting display because there's just a lot going on, and all the aircraft are obviously a lot bigger because it's bombing, so they had quite a massive display, dominated in the center by this, I think it's a 137 scale Lancaster. I think that's the first one I've actually seen completed, and it looks ridiculous. Like, I mean that in a good way. Like, it's just insane how pretty it looks at such a large scale, because I'm only used to seeing them at sort of 1/72nd, maybe 1/48 scale. This display just goes, hold my beer. I did try and get a couple of other aircraft as well, like the Vickers Wellesley and this Armstrong Whitworth Whitley, just so that we could see, you know, other aircraft on display there. I did not know that we actually had the RB45, the Tornado, in RAF service, so that was nice to see. And I like seeing the T-towers behind them as well. That was a really unique way of laying them out, so well done to them. This is the first of the single type SIGs that we're going to see, but there's going to be quite a few of these as we go on. Obviously this one is dedicated to people who love the Spitfire. This is the cool thing about SIGs. If you just like building one model or one sort of type of aircraft or one type of anything, you can join a SIG and speak to others who really enjoy that. Now, obviously with the Spitfire, it saw service in so many places, like we've just seen the Flugwaffen one for Sweden, that, you know, it's impossible to have a Spitfire display that's purely just one service. Even this captured Luftwaffe scheme just adds to it. Also, can we talk about how realistic the grass looks here? Like, wow. And I love these frames with this just spruce painted on them and the instructions in the background. Ugh, I just love them so much. Sticking somewhat to a similar thing, we have a Warbirds display. So this is just, you know, historic relics, I guess, of bygone eras. I think the most recent thing on this table is going to be the Jet Provost, which I think is in the Omani colours, if I remember correctly what their insignia is. This again is a really great way for you to just explore subjects that, you know, you're passionate about. So if you just like building older aircraft or ones that are no longer in service, then this may perhaps be the one for you. I always think Warbirds is an interesting term because really it just refers to anything that's no longer in active service, but there does seem to be a time gap on it, which doesn't really seem to change too much over time. So like this Spitfire SIG, we now have the Hurricane SIG, so everything here is Hurricane. You can see it in a lot of different markings here, such as Ireland, Yugoslavia, and there was one that I'd never seen that I'm assuming is just a fictional scheme, but just stunning. Obviously we have the deconstructed plaque here, which I think looks amazing. We're starting with the Egyptian displays next to the Portuguese, and again, Hurricane, it's all service in so many places, it's got so many different schemes, and this is the interesting one. This is in Italian colours. I've never seen anything like it. It looks amazing, and I know my friend who I play War Thunder with will love the Yugoslavian scheme. We are now moving on to the history of the 4th Fighter Group. Given what's just happened, I think at the same day as the show in America, with the loss of one of the flying B-17s with the P-63 colliding with it, I do want to just say, you know, thoughts be with those and prayers be with those who have lost loved ones in that really tragic accident, because obviously filming this display, I didn't know that happened, and now watching it back, seeing the B-17s, it's quite sad. But yeah, I couldn't not mention it, because I know someone will mention it in the comments otherwise anyway. Okay, on to lighter topics, guys. We'll get on to some lighter topics. We've got the history of Leeds, Bradford, and this was a really neat display. I was not expecting this display. It's got a lot going on. It's got sort of World War II, going up to sort of nearly modern era on this display. It's got this refueling B-29. It's just amazing. I obviously love the Patrouille de France Mystère here, which looks way better than my one does. As I say, we've got this refueling B-29. There were 2 aircraft sort of following it, which I didn't realise until I almost walked away from it, so didn't quite get a proper picture of them because it was quite busy at the time. We've got the Buccaneer SIG here, so obviously it's Buccaneers, it's one of the single type ones. Notice that it's got the markings for the South African variant here, but also all the different schemes that the Buccaneer appeared for in British service. There are a couple here that are really going to steal the show for me, like the Arctic scheme. Whether it's on the Harrier or Buccaneer or any other aircraft, I always think it looks amazing. And it was one of the last aircraft to get this really old school scheme for the Royal Naval Service as well. This SIG always makes me want to go and watch the classic 60s film Battle of Britain with the Battle of Britain SIG, Special Interest Group. The Italian aircraft are always going to steal the show whenever they're about, so, you know, don't be too surprised that that's really what I took photos on. But I did remember to catch this, which is them filming the Battle of Britain, which I just think looks absolutely, it's incredible. I wish I could do something like that. We've got the Fiat light medium bomber, the Fiat G50 as well, which also featured in the Battle of Britain, and the CR-42. People always forget Italy was in the Battle of Britain, but I guess they didn't really do too much compared to Germany, so maybe why. Rotherham is next on our journey round Scale Model World 2022. Love the lunar lander there. A really well spaced out display. I do honestly, in my preference, like when there is enough space between models so you can get really nice pictures of them and you can appreciate each model in detail. I also love seeing seaplanes around. I don't know why, and maybe I'm about to enter my seaplane phase, but there's just something about them that just looks so awesome. And I mean, every show has to have aircraft carriers because they just look amazing and the little planes look so cute. We've arrived at Edinburgh now. Now, I don't think I really see any of the Scottish displays at other shows because obviously it's quite a distance for them to travel for anywhere in Britain. Perhaps they may be at some of the more northern shows that I'm yet to venture to, so perhaps in the future we'll have to see if they're there. I did really enjoy their display though. This F4 looks really snazzy and neat and just fresh off the factory, and this Stuka looks ready to give some menacing trouble to enemy ground forces. This P-38 really looks like it's been through it though, although it has been cleaned up for operational service. One of my favourite SIGs then is always going to be the French SIG, so this is the Mirage SIG. So anything Mirage, whether it's the Mirage F1, Mirage 2000, or its derivatives, the Kafir or the Cheetah, you're going to see them all here. I really like this display. There's a lot of colour to it, a lot of different markings. So we've got this Greek Mirage F1 here initially, and that's followed by this gorgeous example of a Mirage 2000 in a French service with a special tail. And then we've got this Jordanian Mirage F1 as well, which again just shows the variety in display. I've also only just noticed the catgirl on the tail of this aircraft, which is a lot. And we've got Israeli variants here. I think this might be a Dagger or a Nasher. It's the ones before the Kafir, which they actually changed the aircraft quite fundamentally. This is the French F4 SIG, so the Armée de l'Air. This is another one of my favourite SIGs. I just love seeing the French aircraft around, and there were some here that I don't think I've seen for quite some time. Really love these little postcards that they lay around as well in sort of this vintage classic style, which is just beautiful. And I love seeing this Mirage sort of NATO tiger scheme. It looks beautiful, and this is another tiger scheme, very different but also equally fantastic. And this is a Block 210, which is like a medium bomber. It was around at the start of World War II, and this is a Block fighter, so same manufacturer but much more capable, the fighter. Another display we've seen a couple of times here is North Riding. I think I do end up taking pictures of some stuff that we've seen already at previous shows, but you know, it's hard not to when some of them just look absolutely stunning. I do remember them particularly with the CF100 and the Snowbird at the front. And look at that giant Spitfire float plane, like, wow. Oh, and the London bus, just, yeah, really, really interesting display. I did end up taking pictures of the CF100 again, and also the Snowbird. Don't hate me, don't come at me, but I just love them, so I had to. We've got this Beaufighter as well in sort of the Mediterranean camouflage. And we got a close-up on that Spitfire float plane because, of course, we had to. We've got this rescue scene as well with this Dornier Bishop float plane aircraft, and I definitely remember taking pictures of this Harvard that has had an unfortunate accident with its Israeli pilot, and this Stuka maintenance scene. So a couple of things we have seen there before, but I don't think we've seen this Vosper MTP being sort of rearmed. Northern England Airfields is a display that I remember from many of the shows, and I spoke to them and they remembered me because of my long nails. Again, I'm going to show you some things that we saw at previous shows and some of the pictures, but I really like their display. It's so cute. They also gave me some Haribo because I was trying to open a lolly and I couldn't with my nails, so they gave me some Haribo, which is really kind of them. The Sabre, I think, looks fantastic in RAF colours. I never really see it too much, and I just think it looks great. And this Valletta as well, with the striking orange around it. Another Wellesley here, which is just, I've always thought is just such a weird looking aircraft. And I think this is a Sycamore. I just love this. It's so cute and adorable. And a Tucano, which I've always liked, but it's obviously no longer in British service. As we head around, then we've got IPMS Tyneside, so we're going even further north, I think, and a really varied display here. We've got some Russian aircraft, we've got that little diorama. It's just really, really awesome to see, and the boats, how they're based, looks amazing. I'm still really too scared of doing boats, to be perfectly honest with you, but, you know, maybe one day I'll get onto them. Obviously, at the moment, this is, I guess, really what we think of as our enemy, the T-95 Bear, which I've never really seen in person, which is such a shame. We've also got some of the prototypes on just row sort of rocket jet interceptor aircraft, and this Greenland de Havilland Canada 8 as well, which I just really unusual choice of scheme, but looks really, really effective. After this, we have the Asian Air Arms SIG. So basically anything from Asia that you like, and put it in here. And I'm really glad this exists because Asian aircraft I think get really overlooked in the West. There are so many kits that haven't come out, particularly of like Indian manufacturers, for example, like Hindustan Aeronautics Limited have built so many aircraft that have never seen widespread release. Chinese aircraft are becoming more prevalent, like this Chengdu J-10, and this was a collaboration with Pakistan they did, which was the JF-17 Thunder. This was Japan's answer to the modern jet era, which was the Mitsubishi sort of modern fighter, and they are developing it now with other international partners. So next to this we have a really long stretch which is dedicated to the Harrier and the Falklands. The Falklands conflict is somewhat still present in the minds of British people, given that the conflict happened just during the course of the 80s, so a lot of people either grew up in the shadow of the Falklands or grew up during that time. I myself grew up after that, but I was still taught about it, I was still taught about the importance of it, and to be honest I was taught more about that in some situations than I was the Gulf War, which really just sort of shows the impact the Falklands had on British psyche. I think particularly because it's essentially British territory being invaded, which is different to sort of the other wars that we've been involved in. It's a really complicated issue. Obviously we're not going to go into it in full detail today, but the Harriers that were on display here were absolutely stunning. I love how they've used cotton wool to make them look like they're either taking off or they're flying through the clouds. It just looks absolutely stunning. And this one jumping off the short ramp as well. Yeah, the Harrier is a very missed aircraft. I'm really glad that I got to see the Spanish ones again at Fairford. This is the Four Corners display there. Four Corners have really pretty basing on all of their aircraft. I'm assuming they're just sort of photo frames that's very black. And I like the mind the gap diorama at the top there as well. Now this was a really interesting choice showing the consequences of poaching, and I thought that was really moving, like actually really sad. The spent shells on this as well help show the real power of that artillery piece. So we all know that I'm not a tank girl, but this is the Leopard MBT main battle tank SIG. I could not tell you really anything about the Leopard tanks just don't do it for me, and that's okay because modelling is different for every single person. For some people it's gonna be about tanks, some people about aircraft, for some people it'll be gunpla. You know, that's the beauty of modelling, is you can do whatever the hell you want. I did love the terrain on this though. It looks actually still wet, it just looks amazing. But the variety of the Leopard's displays was actually kind of impressive. It surprised me that I spent so much time looking at it, again, just because tanks don't really interest me. Next we have the Israel Defense Force SIG. So this is different to the Israeli display we saw earlier, because that was actually Israeli, whereas this one is just a SIG dedicated to Israeli Defense Force, I guess, equipment or aircraft or tanks, like this Merkava MBT here, and the B-17 you saw earlier as well, which I always forget that Israel had B-17s. I think most people forget that, to be fair. We've got Langley Moore here, and the Ramstein truck on top. I always like I saw Ramstein back in June, I think, so yeah, really awesome seeing this. I love the purple as well, and the aircraft carrier with the funky lighting in the back too. Really beautiful display. Really shows that you can just do whatever you want in modelling, you know. There were a lot of Picaras around this year. I don't know if this is just a thing because of the Falklands or if people just really like the aircraft, but it's an unusual subject, I think. Also, the Hello Kitty and Pikachu tanks, like, oh my god, can we just keep them forever, please? Warhammer is also becoming more and more prevalent in the modelling space, which I'm completely fine with. And I'm not sure what these are from, but they're some of the most incredibly detailed figures I've ever seen. Or at least ones that I assume come like that anyway. Now we've got this Hawker Typhoon in pink, which I love. Over at Barnet now then, and Barnet have the two metallic aircraft that you can see at the side, which are scratch builds that actually have, like, I think it was really thin sheet metal on there, which is ridiculous. Like, the amount of skill involved to make that is just mind-blowing. I could just never. One of the things I really liked on this display though was this Yak 24, which is like a Chinook, but make it Russian. Also the TSR-2, again another aircraft I saw a lot today at this show. And we have the English Electric Lighting prototype as well. Great, we're now at Harrow. And that spider we saw sort of, I think it was earlier on in the year, sort of the mechanical spider, all lit up and looking stunning. Stormtroopers gliding through the terrain, or gliding across it I should really say, and a couple of really well painted figurines in the middle as well. There's some really unique models on here. Perhaps I don't recognise it, but this woman with her fantastic power sword looks incredible and imposing. And this Roman soldier, like, he just looks terrifying, but also terrified, if that makes sense. That it's just his eyes. We've got the Fokker triplane here, perhaps one of the most famous aircraft of all time, and the aforementioned mechanical spider, which actually looks really cute. Also, this car I would never ever get in. It is a death trap, I am convinced. Martini motorbike, Ducati it says it is, so I'm assuming that's what manufacturer it is. And as I said earlier, the speeder bike, which looks great. We've got Mosquito's Special Interest Group, so this is another single type aircraft group. I will be really honest, I know very little about the Mosquito. I need to go to the Havilland Museum and have a look at the sort of Mosquito in more detail. I sort of really know it in general from World War II aviation and, you know, just being involved in aviation since a child, but it's not an aircraft that, as Mary Kondo would say, sparks joy for me. So we'll take that energy anyway and head over to Letchworth and have a look at their display. The Star Wars display in the middle I think looks amazing. I took a picture with like sort of really low ISO so you could sort of see the lasers lighting up as well, because they look even more impressive when they are in sort of dark on us, or I think they do anyway. You might just think it looks a bit rubbish, but mainly because of my photo skills. I love them building this bridge out of the Iron Brucan as well, and this is what I mean with the sort of the lasers sort of really being illuminated. I think it looks amazing. And this pilot as well, I think he looks a bit gormless, but I love it. And this just looks action-packed. Even I, someone who isn't interested in cars, adore it. This is a samurai training camp, which really unusual subject, but really well done. And a lot of this corner was actually dedicated to sort of Japanese styles or samurai, and it was really nice to see this variance and appreciation of different cultures. We're at Horsham now, and Horsham have an impressive display. Lots of really interesting things like that giant walker at the back. We've also got this beautiful Lancia, which even I love. I don't know why I'm starting to get into cars. I have no interest in them whatsoever. And this is Knight Rider, I think, and these sunflowers are very different. I just love them. They're really cute. I'm so glad it exists. This is apparently from Robotech Saga. I don't know anything about that anime, but it's a really impressive diorama. Now over to Spruce Us, which I just want to say thank you, Marcus, for watching my bag for the day, because honestly, about halfway through the second haul, I was like, nah, I'm done. So he very kindly let me put my stuff with the club. So thank you again. Again, we've seen Spruce RS at a lot of the shows that we've been to this year. They're ever present, and this is perhaps their most dynamic and action-packed display that they've had this year. I really, really have such an appreciation for people who can model anything, whether it's, you know, ships, submarines, aircraft, trains, tanks, you name it, they can do it. I'm very jealous because I can't even do aircraft particularly well, whereas you can just do anything you want. Also another Alpha Jet, because of course it's an Alpha Jet, because I love the Alpha Jets. There's also quite a lot of Indian stuff here because Marcus has been to India and seen it all in real life, wanted to replicate that, so that's why you'll see a lot of aircraft or trains in Indian markings. Cleveland's next up on the list, and a couple of really eye-catching models on the top plinths there, but we'll go back to those in a moment. Another Mirage 2000 in a captivating tiger scheme, a KC-135 I think tanker. I can never remember the tankers properly, so I may have got that wrong, but I think that's what it is. And that Rafale in the white tiger scheme as well. It's just a really gorgeous theme. This Westland Lynx, I love the Lynx. I've always thought it was a really impressive aircraft growing up as a child. And this sort of mech tiger that they're riding on, amazing. Here's a close-up of that Mirage 2000 that we mentioned earlier, and the tanker, the Strata tanker, I think it is as well. And we've also got a Hind in a tiger scheme. Yes, pop off, because it looks amazing. Now I've written down that this is Red Flare, which I think is like their own company and their own models. I could be entirely wrong, however, so if I've got this completely wrong and that's not actually the name of this table, then please let me know, because I'll be very sad that I've said that it is. Obviously it's a very Star Wars heavy table, and next to that I was just sort of alluding to the Jerry Anderson modelling SIG, which I think is really interesting, having like, you know, the almost serious nature of Star Wars next to Jerry Anderson, which had Stingray, you know. And I will say I never liked Stingray as a kid. I loved Captain Scarlet, I love Thunderbirds, but Stingray I just can't, I'm sorry. But it's nice to see such an appreciation of such a classic that I think is now just animated, which I guess is good for a new era, but also kind of sad because it's lost that unique charm that it once had. We're now heading over to the Luftwaffe SIG. The Luftwaffe SIG is generally split into sort of two sections. So you've got World War II era, which is obviously Nazi Germany, and then we've got sort of the post-war era leading into modernity. The C-160 and the A400M at the back I think look superb. Really glad they're here. I've always liked seeing the C-160s when they were at Fairford. And there's a fantastic example of a HE 111, which I've always thought is one of the most beautiful bombers that was ever made, mainly because it was a transport boost of the 30s and it's just got that gorgeous sort of almost butterfly-esque design, or at least I think it does. The A400 I mentioned earlier is here as well. I just really fantastically produced model, and I've got some Blonde Voss because of course we have. We're going to be sticking sort of a German scheme, at least a third German, when we move over to the Tornado. So the Tornado was a joint project between initially France, Germany, Britain and Italy, and then ended up being a trinational agreement between Germany, Britain and Italy. The Saudi Arabian Air Force also do use the type, and I think it's still in active service with them, so that's why you can see 4 in the special interest group sign there. This is sort of in the MRCA prototype-ish scheme that they had, and this one is showing 35 years of training together. We're on to another of the single type aircraft SIGs. This one is the Lightning. The Lightning, I think a lot of people forget, had service with places like Saudi Arabia, so you see the Royal Saudi Air Force displays on there, and this one in the sort of silver Saudi scheme, which you can see at Coventry Air Museum. We're on to the F-14 SIG, which is Top Gun heavy, which I think is a really great way to advertise it, and it's nice to see that as well they sort of brought in both the F-18 and the quote-unquote MiG-28, which is an F-5. I always think these displays are really good for bringing in new people to the hobby who are like, oh my god, I can make that thing from that film that I like, and you know, it does work, I think, hopefully. We've got NASA now. Now, I have been very guilty of just sort of taking a brief experience of their displays before, so I tried to make sure I actually did focus on them a little bit today. Probably not as long as I should have done, but I did try. I really like that these are sort of civilian schemes. It's really unusual that you see such a heavy presence in civilian schemes outside of airliner SIGs. And NASA just has a lot of interesting aircraft or modifications to aircraft that you just won't see on any other table, to be perfectly honest. It's such a specialist field. Though every time I see an F-104 now, though, I just think of Ace Combat, if I'm honest. A variety of spacecraft here that I could not possibly name, but they look amazing. And Huey, Dewey and Louie from the 1972 classic Silent Running. We're moving on to Lincoln's display next. I did go to Lincoln's model show very recently, so if you do want to check out their model show itself, then please go and have a look at that. I really enjoyed their show. It is set in sort of a school. It was a smaller show, but it was absolutely fantastic. It was nice to see as well that they've had some different things on the table. particularly because I know that a few of them have said they were going to go put stuff on SIGs, which you do find happens more at Telford than perhaps at other shows, which means you then find other models that haven't been out for a while, and this actually is really terrifying. This look on that soldier's face, like he knows he has to take someone's life, is incredible. Newark's next up. Hopefully one day we're going to see a show at Newark Museum, but we'll see how that goes. Again, another table that I've seen at a lot of shows. Trump Pride and Spawn is absolutely hilarious. Yeah. And this cartoony ship, I've never seen a cartoony ship before, but I love it, and I think it's so cute. It almost makes me want to build a boat. I'm too scared to do it still, though. We've got West Glamorgan here. Welsh displays are also something that we don't often see. I guess much like Scotland, it's a long way for a lot of people to go over into England, and I should perhaps try and go to some more shows that are in Scotland and Wales, but again, same problem for me as travelling. The Hawker Hunter group up next, and next to that we also had the Hawker group, which was for the Typhoon, Tempest and Sea Fury. I've done sort of them both together because it's basically all Hawker then. So the Hunter is such a magnificent and beautiful aircraft that was in service with the Swiss for the longest of times, and the Sea Fury was one of the last sort of true propeller fighter aircraft, I guess, that anyone ever saw. So I can completely get why someone might want to join the SIG and build a lot of them. This is Birmingham that we're looking at now, with their purple and red scheme. That Vulcan is gorgeous. I love a good Vulcan. And there's the Jaguar, Griffin, and that Mi-23, which definitely going to be getting a close-up on. But there were a couple of figures on the top that I thought were really unique, really interesting, that I just had to capture. And the lady you've seen there painting, she was the one behind the figures on top that we're going to have a look at in a moment. And this is it. It's Cat Von Helsing. It's amazing. And this Enchantress as well. Her ability to paint models that small with such a high level of detail is frankly amazing, and I wish I could steal her talent. Also, this MiG-23 is perhaps the coolest MiG-23 I think I've ever seen, and I want to take it and have it in my collection because it looks amazing. Now at Cayley Model Club. Now, they had a really unique theme on display on the left of that club, which is where it says Happy Birthday, and basically you had to make a model kit that was released during the year of your birth, which I thought was a really unique way to, you know, force yourself to select a kit that you might not have built before. And I think maybe I should do that at some point. I don't even know what was released in 1992. It's probably just going to be reboxings, isn't it? Which will be really depressing. I'll have to have a look. And maybe I'll do that challenge as well. And how could we forget the Yorkshire bobsleigh team? I mean, classic. Here at Northern Devon Model Society, and all those figures you see there were hand sculpted, and we're going to go look at the other one that was at the front in a moment, because I actually spoke to I made it. It was his first ever attempt making a full-on custom figurine, and it came out absolutely incredible. And it's actually kind of a really moving story. It's his grandfather, and he never met his grandfather. His grandfather actually died, as you can see, in 1918, with his body being found in the River Thames under suspicious circumstances after going through horrific acts. So go back and pause that if you do want to read it. Really fascinating and absolutely a lovely, fitting tribute to a family member that you never got to meet. We've arrived at Mildenhall. Now, Mildenhall's display, again, very military heavy, but they've got some interesting models, particularly that flying circus coloured American bomber that you don't often see on display. A couple of things that stood out to me were some of the cars and the airliners as well. I think airliners and cars can just bring so much colour to a table, can't they, that you wouldn't see otherwise. And there you go. I love the flying circus scheme of the early United States sort of Air Force. Oh, and there's A10 that's been like customized to be like a jet for space. Like, what? We're now over to Japanese Aviation SIG, another staple of Telford. I remember seeing them last year, and they look amazing. Everything is based on obviously the Japanese sun, the rising sun. This F4 and like this digi camo just looks ridiculous. Like I don't understand. This Mitsubishi light bomber and this T5H2 Kate. We've also got this Mitsubishi T2, which was used for research purposes after initially obviously the T2 being one of Japan's jet trainers, and comparably having amounts of the Blue Impulse Japanese display team. Now I think this is North Somerset from what I saw, and this is set to Life's a Beach, which, you know, good pun. And it's cool to see in the middle as well of the Sun Castle, they've got the flags that you always get when you go to the beach and buy flags, which is 3 of the 4 countries of the UK. Never understood why Northern Ireland's left out. Well, I guess maybe it's a bit political. And we're gonna need a bigger boat. Ugh, it's a really, really unique theme. Like a nightmare for me, because I'm really bad with anything with water in modelling, but amazing. And Stafford, we've seen this at a couple of shows like Stafford, and this is so out there for them, like really clever. So basically everything on the table, either the aircraft's name itself, like, you know, the individual aircraft's name, or the type of aircraft or type of whatever, has to be related to an extraterrestrial object. So this is a de Havilland Comet. That's also followed up by a de Havilland Comet, and an Airbus helicopter that I didn't even know was called a Jupiter, so that's worth knowing, and the Evening Star train. So you can see a really unique way to incorporate so many different types. Like, honestly, Stafford deserve a lot of respect for that. We're reaching the end of the hall then. I think this is the penultimate display in the first hall that we're looking at, and this is Ribbon Hall. One of the first things we're looking at is this, again, light armoured car. I love these sort of pre-war armoured cars, and this ME262 Mistral, so one of them is basically just a bomb that gets dropped off. This Mercedes GTR, and as quick as that, we're over to Clacton IPMS. This is a really diorama heavy display, and I actually heard the guy you can see there talking. He said that the reason they do a lot of dioramas now is because people aren't really interested in just a tank. And I don't think it's so much that people aren't interested in just a tank. I think it's just that a diorama can have so much more life and vibrance to it. Like the expressions on people's faces, the atmosphere that you can create with a diorama, such as this, is just, I think, a lot more impactful than perhaps just a tank on its own. It's an interesting discussion to have within the modelling space, but I definitely don't think it's just because people are bored of tanks. I think it's just that dioramas just add an extra dimension. We're into the second hall, guys. Remember, use the chapters, take breaks. This is the Ageless Nostalgia Vintage Models SIG, and we saw these at Boscombe Down. They also remembered me, which is really nice. I did a lot of this through video because I think it's the best way to really catch them. I think these look amazing. I just love everything about this table. Again, a lot of these are really, really old pressings. Perhaps don't have the most detail in the world, but they just look so great, and some of these really definitely need re-releasing. I know my mum would probably love this owl. Maybe I'll have to do a one at some point. Yeah, just the birds just look great. It's a shame that they don't really have any interest anymore in the space, because they're such a unique aspect of modelling that I think it's just been lost to time. A lot of these figures are, again, legacy. Some of them you can still buy as vintage classics. Some of them you can't really get anymore. I remember having the French Foreign Legion a lot as a kid. I don't know why I just kept getting them, but I really love them. I think it's just because I thought they looked so different that they were interesting to me. So from one style of vintage to another is the Cold War SIG. So obviously everything here is from the Cold War. Again, just due to the nature of the conflicts, which I guess you could argue lack of conflict, you get a lot of different nations involved in this display. You can build almost anything really. It's nice to see sea vessels included as well. I never really think about that when I think of the Cold War. For Cold War I think about tanks and aircraft. The MB326 here, the predecessor to the MB339, and I think this is in Iraqi markings as well. This is a Ukrainian MiG-25. And just like that, we're over to the next table, which is the classic British kits. Quite self-explanatory what this table is about, but obviously there's a lot of manufacturers. Britain had a lot of model kits. It's quite often viewed as some of the homes of model making, really, or modern model making. Obviously, we still have FX today, but this display was celebrating the 50th anniversary of Matchbox. Despite I think Matchbox just overlaps when I was around as a child, and I just never built them as a kid. I'm really sad that I never did, because that would have been such a nice thing to have for nostalgia purposes. But no, now I just buy Matchbox kits because they have really awesome box art. They still hands down have some of the best box art that you will ever see. So this is the Revell modelling SIG. Revell obviously being a massive company that has a long and distinguished history, or I guess depending who you ask, has a history at least. This Buccaneer I think looks great though against this sort of painted background, and these elephants just I thought they looked cool. I think if I remember right as well, this boat is meant to glow in the dark. I'm assuming where the decals are. And I've never built a Revell Hawk somehow. This has always interested me though, the Leonardo da Vinci 500 year anniversary aerial screw. I've never built it, but I have a lot of interest in it. This is the International Military Club. Really packed display. I actually found this very overwhelming to look at. There's a lot going on, a lot to process. So I just tried to take a couple of my favourites, the ones that stood out to me. I mean, there's a Roman. I'm always going to take a Roman. And the soldier with the dog is so cute. We're now at 580 modelers, and this is again a club that we see at most shows. I think every show actually I've been to, except maybe Lincoln. Again, another Buccaneer. And we have the Ukrainian digital camouflage MiG-21, I'm assuming maybe Ghost of Kiev sort of style, at this T-34 trainer. HMS Bristol here as well. And the C-130, which again is, because my dad served in them, just always brings a lot of joy to me. Rex and Wings are the next display we're looking at, and I spoke again to one of the guys who made some of their components. So you see the sort of framed displays, which I've definitely taken pictures of before. Well, he was sort of explaining that they're sort of photo frames, and he puts acrylic over the top so you can drill over them, and it's something that developed during the course of lockdown, and I think it's a really cool, unique way of producing them. I really liked the two tiger camouflage schemes there, and we're also going to see a Canberra as well, which is something that was recreated from his own life, seeing them sort of being phased out of service and flying around where he was. Right, it's Dartmoor then. We're at next, and another Vulcan looking amazing. I've tried not to just take pictures of Vulcans in Victors and Valiants and try and capture different things, because it'd be really easy just to take a picture of them every time. Though I did take one on this display, I will be honest. So, I mean, you have to get at least one, right? Yeah, a really great display. The Millennium Falcon, I know I just sort of skipped over it, but I thought that was a really fantastic presentation, to be perfectly honest. One of the best ways I've seen a Millennium Falcon ever be presented. Just the dust cloud behind it. Anyway, we're at West Norfolk now. Again, a really great display. I love the poppy display in the middle. Obviously, this is held over Remembrance Weekend, so it's always going to have a really strong link to Remembrance Sunday and the poppy. So we see a lot of those displays around. The Jaguar looking fierce. I love the Jaguar. Such a cute aircraft. Same as sort of gone forever, and I don't think it's in service of anyone anymore. And I say the poppy DC-3, which has become a staple of their displays. Now at Tangmere, and there's a couple of things here that I thought were really unique. We've got the Vigan there that we've seen at many a display, Gotha in the middle, which really dominated, but there was a biplane I thought was really cool, which is this, which is the Quadrant 3, or G3, which I don't think I really know about. World War I aircraft is not my strong point, I'll be really honest. The camera did not love the yellow, but I did love this snow anti-air diorama and this Red Bull sponsored Formula 1 racer. Now at IPMS Kent, I love the Wellington Bomber display, or framed display that's in the back. Really clever way of doing it. Again, plastic at the front I don't love, but I'm assuming they've had some experience somewhere where it's become necessary, and that giant Sunderland in the middle. Got this Miles trainer in the middle, and this PE2, which really amazing display. The setting of that is fantastic. And again, the giant Sunderland in the middle, which just looks amazing. Right then, we're now on to what is always one of my favourite displays at every single show. I'm not meant to show bias, but I absolutely do towards SIG 144. I've said it a million times, it's too small for me to make, but I really appreciate their work. I think they always have some of the most interesting models on display. They did actually have what is, I think, my favourite display piece that they ever have had. It wasn't at the front and centre as it was at Lincoln, but that's because they do try and vary their display up whenever they can. I love this display so much. Particularly like that they also do, you know, well, you can see there Star Wars, but they've also got just day in the life pieces, you know, things that don't often get shown in modelling, but I think are a really cool way for us to remember how life was at a certain point, or how life potentially could be, or just to appreciate what we have, you know, just really embrace our existence. Now this is, I'm assuming, a reference to maybe the Iron Giant. I know it's with sort of Gundam instead. This Halloween trick-or-treat scene is absolutely adorable. Look at the sheep. I wish I had sheep outside my house, although I'd be scared they'd eat the clothes maybe. Some Hurricane Aces here chilling out whilst they get ready for a new sortie. And we've also got this cowshed, which I think is amazing. It looks so good. Look at the little hay nails. Oh, it looks so good. We've got some prototypes. They've got a lot of prototypes in the middle. They had a little display of it's, well, I say it's display, it's like a little section which is just prototypes. And the A400 at a manageable scale compared to the 172nd version, which you saw earlier, which is absolutely giant, and this very Spearfish, which is an aircraft I don't think you ever see anywhere. And as I say here, they're showing that, you know, just because it's a small scale doesn't mean they don't put in the work that other scales do, because, I mean, I think if you thought they didn't put any effort in, you'd be mad, because they hands down always have some of the best displays around. Right, we're moving on to Gloucester then. I'm going to stop fangirling over the SIG 144 and we'll look at Gloucester's table. Gloucester is another one that I've seen at a couple of shows. I spoke to a couple of members today. It was really nice to see them. I always like meeting people who either remember me or have watched the videos. They have such a creative and immaculate display. I saw that they have their show already set, and I need to work out my calendar, but maybe I'll go to Gloucester shows. Like, I've not been to that one yet. So, see you in 2023, maybe Gloucester? We'll see. We'll see. IPMS Cornwall here then. I don't think I've seen Cornwall either since maybe last year? I don't even know if they were here last year. A lot of airliners on this one that took display. I really love the Brigate Atlantique 2 in the Italian Eagle markings. That was a recent Revell release as well that I nearly bought last year at Salford, but decided not to because I figured I'd never build it. And I'm glad I didn't, because I would have never built it. But it was really cool to see it here. It's something I want to do at some point in the future, but you know, I just need to actually find the resolve to build them. It's nice to see moving parts too at model shows as well, so thanks Cornwall for actually a genuinely really lovely little spread. Boscombe Down's here now, and Boscombe Down, I went to their show this year, for the first ever time, and what a show it was. I'd never even been to Boscombe Down's museum before, so being able to see their museum and their show was a real treat. I really enjoyed it. I really look forward to hopefully going again next year. We'll see if my calendar allows it. I'm a bit worried about just going to shows, and I want to make sure that I also keep building models, so it's balancing time, as I'm sure anyone can appreciate, but I'm going to try and go to as many different shows as I can. Now, after Boscombe Down, we have Salisbury's, not actually moving too far geographically. Another HS748 there, and a much larger scale than what we saw previously at the Belgium stand, which, again, I loved. Salisbury's display is actually really nice. Again, a really large amount of variety, a lovely set of dioramas on here as well. So this is in Berlin. We've got the Spitfire that's being repaired and restored and checked up on. I say this 748, which is in the New Zealand Air Force scheme, and this excavation of, I think, a P40, which looks stunning. This is target facilities. This is basically target aircraft, target tugs, all that jazz. These are some of the most Dayglow-esque aircraft you will ever see. Didn't even know the CF100 in Belgian service became a target tug, so wow. Right, we have Marvel now, and Marvel SIG always remembered me because they were like, oh no, we haven't got Gambit here this time. And I was like, no, my husband to be, because every time I've seen them they had Gambit. And yeah, like I said, that Gambit is my favourite X-Men, because growing up as a kid watching the cartoon, I literally fell in love with him and wanted to marry him. So apparently that's not changed into adulthood. But they had such a vibrant display. I love seeing Marvel. It's really important that we show that modelling isn't just about building military aircraft. You can build fun, different things as well from, well, obviously it doesn't have to be Marvel, but this is a Marvel SIG, but you can literally build whatever you want. What's important is that you are enjoying what you are building. So after we've done Marvel, then we've got Sutton Spartans. So West Midlands sort of model club. I really love their sort of Crayola-esque shelving. I really wish I had that something in my house, actually. This little cartoon playing there in the experimental camouflage schemes, which was juxtaposed by this French army engagement scene. That was the worst way of describing it ever. And also this penguin in a Spartan helmet, which is the cutest thing ever. Sorry, back to being somewhat professional. So Sutton Coldfield here then. Again, we've seen their display a couple of times, mainly because I remember the windmill. It's a really good way to remember it because it's iconic. I think that was entirely scratch built as well, which doesn't surprise me, but also is amazing considering the quality of it. Goes to Kiev here then, the ICM kit. We're seeing a lot of these. These were sold all around the show as well that I saw, which again doesn't surprise me. I think given what we expected, that may be the case for a couple of years, unfortunately. Scimitar here, which is a naval aircraft you very rarely see, not very popular, but I think it actually looks kind of nice. F-18s as well to boot. Right, we're at my former club, Stoke-on-Trent Model Club, and I was kind of shocked because even though I know this club, I didn't expect the astronaut in the middle, which is one of the most impeccable figures I've ever seen, and also one of the biggest figures, which makes it even harder because I always think that the bigger you get, the more detail you expect, and just look how amazing that is. I can literally see myself in the reflection as well. And also we're coming up to Christmas, so they've got this really seasonal minion as well. Submarine that I unfortunately didn't apparently get fully in frame, but we'll let it slide. And their Poppy tribute scene as well, which I think they've had for a couple of years, but never really loses its impact. This solo display Hawk as well with mirrored base, which just looks fabulous. They also have Rubicon models next door to it as well. Again, much like they did at their own show, which we also did a video on, so check that out too. And I'm going to be honest, everything here is at really high quality, but the Toblerone tank still steals it for me. I'm sorry, everyone else. Guy's imagination to build this is ridiculous, and that is why he's such a lovely modeler. We're moving over to Splash then. This is a water-based SIG. Clearly my grasp of the English language has failed me somewhat, but I mean, like, you know, fly boats, but they've also got a hover boat there as well. And yeah, we've also got the fire bombers as well, water bombers, should I say, but I mean, fire would not be very helpful, which is the Canada CL-215, which I think is now Viking. This prototype aircraft as well, I think, is one of the most beautiful aircraft I've ever seen in my entire life, and I want it. And hovercrafts, which we don't really see anymore, like at all. It's sort of a dying breed, really, for civilian transport at the very least. Now we are at Locate and Cement, and again they do something that I think is really cool, which is to show that modelling can be at any stage really. You can literally not paint a model and it still counts as modelling, which they've done with the Spitfire that they have in the middle. You'll have seen it a moment ago, but we'll get closer of it here, which is just literally the Spitfire and it's raw plastic stuck together and then decaled. Beautiful. There's Beaufort as well next to it, and I'm not sure what tank this is, or a tankette really I should say. We've got the Zealand 526 Acrobat. I wonder if you can work out what that aircraft used for. Alright, Pool Vikings heading up next then. We've got two clubs from here. This is IPMS Belgium. They're one of a few stands that I saw with Necrons. The Necrons seem to be really popular with modelers. I don't really know what that says about us as a community, because what I've seen mainly is Black Templars and Necrons. So we like to purify and be undead apparently. And there's South African 26 as well, which I think looks really amazing. It's with the really old decals that South Africa used to have, which were some of the most intricate sort of markings I think any aircraft could have. Next to that is Poole and Wessex IPMS, or I think it said including Wessex IPMS. More flat display, but some really interesting choices like this kangaroo, which I'm terrified of because I never realised how terrifying kangaroos were until the internet became, prominent when I was a teenager. And then I thought, oh god, a kangaroo could kill me. So that's another reason to never go to Australia for me. We've now got Magic at the movies, and they had a really big devotion to James Bond in the middle. Now, I did overhear them say that they weren't the biggest fan of Daniel Craig, which makes me very sad because they're my favourite films, and I've cried at the Daniel Craig movies so many times, particularly I think the most recent two films. I think they're fantastic. Either way, everyone has their favourite era of Bond, don't they? It's just what you are when you're British. And also they had this Bioshock scene as well, which I was really surprised by. I didn't expect to see something like that here. So yeah, really cool to see Bioshock in modelling. I might have to have a look into that. Right, we're over to Dundee now. Again, another club that I don't see too much because, it's in Scotland. And I have to, take 2 days really to travel there and then travel back. So maybe 2023, 2024 will be when I actually get to the Scottish shows, but we'll have to see. Also really enjoyed this greenhouse. I know it's probably basic to a lot of people, but I think it looks really, really cool. We're just going to run through this one then. This is the US Air Force Special Interest Group. When I say run through it, I mean we're just going to sort of show the video showing everything that they have on there. It's such a massive display. I think they look great, and it leads on nicely into the F4 Phantom SIG. Again, another single aircraft interest group. The Phantom is not an aircraft that has ever really done it for me, if I'm honest. I know a lot of people really, really love it. I guess it's because I didn't really grow up with it maybe. And right at the end of that row was the IPMS Recce, which I don't know if I've seen this before, but it's all reconnaissance style aircraft, which was really cool. So this is IPMS Telford that we have up next then. Or Shropshire Modelling Club. Now they remembered me because they have that terrifying spider. I'm not going to put a close up on it this time, don't worry, but if you look at some of the previous videos, you literally was like, if you're scared of them, don't look. This Nimrod I think looks absolutely stunning. I think this is the Airfix Nimrod kit because it's pretty much the only one that's around. I've got one of them to do, but I'm too scared to do it and too scared to mess it up. And this Forces of the French Interior diorama, I think it's incredible. I never would have thought to do that. I think it's really important that we think about the French resistance as well. So yeah, really awesome. This Gannet as well. I mean, you can't go wrong with the ugly beast that is the Gannet. It always looks so just unnerving. Can't imagine what it was like to see them fly. The helicopter SIG, unfortunately I didn't get any decent pictures of that, so we've just got sort of a running look through the helicopter SIG. Now though, we're over at Wallingford, and Wallingford has a really cool stripy airliner in the middle. It has the thing. It's got a lot of things that really draw your eye here. I took a picture of the other Condor aircraft though, and this Wallace and Gromit scene, or Shaun the Sheep scene. I'm not really sure what the brand really goes under anymore, and I'm assuming this is a tribute to a former member of the club, which I think it's really nice to remember them. This Polish F-16 as well. I always forget Poland has the F-16 now, even though I've seen their F-16 Tiger display at Fairford. This is the Churchill SIG. Again, it's tanks that don't really do much for me, but it's amazing to see how many variants the Churchill came in, because I did not know until I started looking at their club. I showed you the banner to this, it was making the most of it. So this is about how a lot of the kits that are out there, whether they're, you know, reissues or they're just old boxings, are really old molds, and some of them have held up really well, some of them haven't, some of them require a lot more work than others, and I actually sometimes really enjoy the simplicity of some of the older kits, so I thought this is a really cool display. Oh, and I forgot to say, this is from the early risers, and I've said before how they often have a very unique and lovely way of presenting their stand, and this year, say, with this theme, it's no different. I thought it was really impressive, to be perfectly honest. This is Thames Valley next to them then, a military heavy theme, but nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Let's see the Casa at the front as well, an aircraft that I've seen around a lot of boxings, but maybe that suggests to me they haven't sold, maybe? Or they were overproduced? I don't know. I've seen them everywhere, and I rarely see them on the table, so make of that what you will. We're now over to East Nuke. I have no idea if I've even remotely said that right, but I'm sure you'll correct me if I've said that completely wrong. So first we're looking at this Yak 130 in Algerian service, which is amazing. And this Belgian Air Force Alpha Jet, which I unfortunately got slightly out of focus. Sorry about that. We're now at Glasgow, another one I don't really see very much, despite the fact I used to live pretty much in Glasgow, so awkward. But yes, Glasgow's display, really lovely. The C-130 looks amazing, even with the rigging on there of the old school C-130. And this was apparently based off a real image that the guy had found. This BF-109 that has been salvaged and taken apart and perhaps being used for scrap. This VW camper truck, monster truck conversion, again, just fabulous. This is the 32nd scale SIG, so this is the SIG that would make me cry if I had to build on a scale, because 32nd is nothing for me, at least in terms of building it. Like, looking at it is stunning, and I love them on dioramas, but I have a tiny house. I barely have room for the 172nd scale models I have, so if I had this scale, my cat would literally just have new toys to throw on the floor, I think, pretty much. But the thing that sold it for me is this English Electric Lightning. And the J37 Vigan that sits below it. Alright, we're moving over to Chelmsford now. Now, a couple of things that have already caught my eye, including that beautiful little Tucano in the display scheme colours. And this fight scene as well, this diorama across a road. There we go, we can see the Tucano. I think was this the Jubilee scheme? And the USS Enterprise here again, lit up. But this is this like, I don't know if this is bolt action. It looks like bolt action, or like some conflict 1947 stuff, or 1946. Now this is the Nightfighter SIG. And again, a really amazing collection of highly detailed and well presented aircraft. Not something, again, that particularly does it for me, bar maybe the Bolt and Pull Defiant, just because I absolutely love the wild nature of the Bolt and Pull Defiant, and I feel like if that had been developed properly, it could have been an absolute unit. But this BE2, I think, looks really unique, and it's sort of almost pure black color scheme. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. So we're now at the New City Model Club. There may be some flashing in the background from a photographer, so just bear that in mind. But yeah, really lovely collection. This is one of the earliest helicopters I think ever, and I love it on the sort of the grassy terrain. And this is the Night Witchers, really famous group, so go and have a look, research them if you don't know their story. It's definitely something I want to be building in the future. This is IPMS Mid Sussex, the Yoda Lego figure is absolutely gorgeous, and I hope we get more of that, because Lego in my books is definitely welcome in the modelling space. Like, just look at that. I mean, that takes just as much skill as a lot of model making does, let's be honest. And I love the attitude of this biker, like, yeah, I'm on a bike, what of it? If he's some famous biker and I've got that wrong, like, I apologise, but to me as a casual non-bike person, that's what it looked like. So following on from that, we have Mercia. Now, this Britannia looks gorgeous, and it had a comment next to it, and I missed the scheme. And there used to be one at RAF Linen, but sadly no longer with us. But hey, at least the cockpits are busting down, I guess. Okay, so I do need to put out an apology. So what you're seeing here is Northern Virginia's IPMS, like from America, guys. What? And I apparently at the show just completely missed that and thought they were part of Staffordshire Moorlands. I don't know how, so I'm so sorry, but amazing to see American participants at Telford. Wow, that's so incredible. I just mixed you up with Staffordshire Moorlands as well. I'm so sorry. Oh well, I knew I'd make some mistake in this video. But we've got Fenland and Spalding following on from my mishap there, loading some luggage into this beautiful biplane. This was on a rotating plinth, so you can see it from all angles as well. Another Formula racer. Again, I don't know the names of them because I'm not great with Formula 1, but I just thought it looked really cool in the gold scheme. Phoenix modelers now. I like that they've got photos below some of the models to show, you know, the aircraft actually in real life. I think that's a really clever way of presenting them. These giant tank shells from Bovington as well. Wow. So this is the Mirage 3 of the Israeli Air Force, as you can see. And this is a Hawk, the Airfix 148 scale one actually, which I've never built. I really need to start doing some 148 scale stuff. Maybe the Hawk is a good place to start because they're quite cheap if you do them wrong. We've got Wisbech then, or Wisbeach. I never know which one I'm saying, so we'll just say both every single time I see this club until someone tells me which one's right. I loved this Trafalgar scene. I've never seen anything quite like this. I've seen the tabletop game where you sort of do naval battles, but I've never seen anything quite like it. It's absolutely astounding. So this is the airliner special, or airline special interest group, celebrating the VC-10 and sort of general airline aviation this time, and I really love it. I think it's such a lovely little display. Seeing like airways you never see, like Gambia Airways, is a real treat. And this Trilander, who misses a Trilander, guys? Because I do. What a weird and beautiful aircraft. Right, we're now over to the Peterborough display. I've seen them at a couple of shows during the course of this year. I guess they're in quite a good location for travelling, I guess, to some of the model shows that are around. I did really, really enjoy the fire truck here, and I love the matte clothing. They did that really well. It contrasts really nicely with the actual fire truck itself, and that Greek F-16, and this wild cartoony figurine as well, which I just thought was awesome. After Peterborough then, it is Plymouth. Again, this is a really well-spaced, well-laid-out display. I really enjoyed it. It looks really nice, and some of the interesting ones like this VW camper with the reefer. I slept in one of those now. They're really weird to sleep in. And this beautiful dinosaur scene with the fossil, I think that's really, really cute. So now this is IPMS South East London. I always find it amazing how many clubs there are in London, and I realise like London is basically the size of a small country, so you know, it's probably not that surprising. I'm going to assume from the camouflage that this is either Czech or Italian, but it looks amazing. The camouflage absolutely pops with the tricolour. And we do also have some more Necrons. Like I say, not sure what this says about us. This sort of seems like it's Underwolf themed, and some Black Templars as well, which look fantastic. And this is the Red Pelicans Jet Provost, which I've also done. Really, really good kit actually from FX there. This is the British Bulldogs, and I really love the display that they've done with the whole, yeah, stuff happens. It's a really good mantra for model making because sometimes stuff just goes wrong. I love this like triplane Spitfire they've done. That's hilarious. And who doesn't love a good hind? I mean, we all know we do, right? And seeing a French World War I scene as well, I think is quite unusual, but a really, really powerful little diorama. The Gulf War SIG then, with all its desert camo goodness. Again, an era that perhaps is of less interest to me than it is to others, even though I grew up with it, which is a bit weird. But yes, so we do have some figures here, like this soldier, I'm assuming sort of reading a map or just checking something else, having a cigarette. We've got a MiG-23 here as well. Really lovely little display from the Gulf War SIG. We're over to Farnborough now. And I've just noticed the Spanish flying boat in the middle that I didn't take a picture of, damn it. I think this is Sea Fury. I'm really bad at naming some of these aircraft in this giant beast, which, wow, really took up the centre of the display, didn't it? Over to Wolverhampton. Again, I've seen these guys at a few of the shows I've been to, probably because they travel similar distances that I do to shows, I guess. Really liked the Eurofighter in this green scheme. I've seen it a few times in the boxings, but never got around to building it. But then after that, we've got this Chinese nationalist sort of recolouring of an American trainer, which I thought was a really interesting move. And the KA-50, which the Black Shark, which is terrifying war machine. East Kent up next then, and I see the M346 in the Singaporean scheme, but there's a couple of crashes on here. There was like Javelin that was crashed, but I loved how much this Jet Provost has been weathered, and this BF-109 with a pilot who's walking away, and you know what they say, any landing you can walk away from is successful, and it's old Fiat 1924's racing car. Now at Mavfa, and I didn't write down exactly what this is, which Mavfa this is, so I do apologise again. I think because these don't particularly spark joy for me, I am just going to go through a couple of them. So we've also got the Modern British Armour SIG as well. Again, it's just something that I know nothing about, so I'd feel really ignorant talking about anything in particular on there. So we're just going to show you the displays. And then we've got the Russian wheels and tracks. Obviously quite topical at the moment, I guess, for Russian armour, as we see them a lot in the news. So I guess they've got a lot of interesting reference points at the moment. Two displays coming up quite quickly after each other. One of them I just didn't very good focus on. So we've got the Truck SIG. Again, I know nothing about it. I'd show the display as a whole because I really like how trailers can look on trucks and it's interesting, but I'm just really not like into it. And we've got the high speed flyers. We're now on to F1 and motorsports of the 75 years of Ferrari, so a bit of a celebration over there. I didn't know Ferrari had gone on for that long, to be perfectly honest. Wow, time really does fly, doesn't it? And then we've got WRC 1972 to 2022, and I took a picture of the pink car because I'm a walking cliche, apparently. We've then got Hot Rod and Custom SIG. Now, this is, I don't really know what I think of this. I think I like looking at them, but I have zero interest in them. I liked the one which was set up in that diorama. I don't really know. It's something I just never really considered, I think. Until I saw it again at this show and I was just like, does this spark joy? But I don't think it does. Also, Noddy's car, which has been heavily customised, is absolutely hilarious and I love it. And I hope they put a Noddy figure in the future because that'll really make me laugh. Next to this then we have the Car and Motorcycle Club, or IPMS for car and motorcycles. And I've got the full history of cars here, which I think was really clever. I think I've seen this before, and I commented that it hadn't been updated. And obviously it has now, because it goes up to 2021. So that's really, really cool. So I really like seeing this, actually. Again, I have no interest in cars, but seeing stuff like this, like it's a timeline and you can understand the references, I think it really helps someone who's not into it. So this is a road and track in scale, and yeah, again, something I'm not massively into, but I know some of my regular viewers like Sarah will be really into this. Obviously I managed to just take pictures of the things that were completely unrelated that were on there. So we have the farmer, and then we have this woman next to her car. You know, maybe it was me in the 50s. Definitely not. That girl is way too thin to be me. After this then we've got the Northwest Car and Motorcycles. This shell display looks really cool. I really like the logos and displays. It's just a shame that it's shell. So now it's Chiltern. And we've definitely taken a picture of that Victor refueling the Vulcan before, so I tried not to get everything again. We've got another block, MB 150, 152. And I didn't want to just take a picture of the Victor refueling again, because I did that before. The Battleship SIG then, I wanted to just try and show as much of this as I could. There's a couple of SIGs here that are all kind of somewhat related to each other, because after this we've got the Aircraft Carrier SIG as well, which I didn't know existed, and I think it's really cool. Again, aircraft carriers are something I love looking at, but I think the idea of building them is very overwhelming. I wasn't too sure what this was, so if someone wants to let me know which club this is, that would be amazing, because it seems like these two are both the same. I did take a couple of pictures of them. I'm not sure what club, what IPMS group that is. But after that, we have the Association of London Modellers with their fantastic sign with the Skywriter, and wow, we're really getting through it here. This is another club that I've seen a couple of times, and they've got a really good set of displays here. A couple of nice little dioramas. We're now over to Southampton, and that helicopter front and centre, amazing. Again, helicopters is never something I've really done. I did start building one, but it's ended up in the trash, unfortunately. So yes, I think it's a Huey, isn't it, in the middle, and then we've got the Joker car from the 1989 Batman movie, and this Tomcat, which I don't know, it has a lot of movement to it. It definitely feels like it's, accelerating through the clouds to reach this higher altitude, or I don't know. I really like it. It's really well done Tomcat, to be honest. Right, we now have Romsey. Now, Romsey's another club that I've seen quite a lot of the shows I've been to, I think, and their vibrant red branding definitely makes them an easy model club to spot. Now, they had really big display, and I really like this DFW CV and free Ukraine colours, and the CR42 obviously I have to get a picture of because I am contractually obligated to at this point. Oh, and the Star Wars scene, the metallics on this, fabulous, absolutely. We've now got a couple of sort of vessel related ones. We've got the small warships, and then after this we've got Mulberry Harbour SIG. So really interesting selection. There's a lot more sort of naval SIGs than I think I've seen at previous shows. Now, Malta at War is here as well. And on the topic of Malta, I actually had someone who's followed my channel for a very long time, called Ray, who actually gave me a little gift from Malta, which was really kind of him. So yeah, just thought I'd shout out to them because they came from Malta for the show, and it was really nice to meet them. Obviously, the Italian aircraft on this display really took me my preference with the MC200 and this Cant. The Cant I've never built, but it's just such a fascinatingly weird aircraft, viewed as the best Italian bomber of the war, So this is Between the Wars Aviation SIG. So, a lot of stuff people may have overlooked or forgotten. I've built a couple of things that were sort of between the wars recently, such as my Avia B35, and I've also built the Fokker D21. I do really like the 1930s design of aircraft, sort of, especially for monoplanes. We're now at Brampton now. We will have seen this display before. Obviously, I think it's St. Ives show. Now, this display is Victoria Cross. Everything on here is associated with a Victoria Cross that's been awarded one way or another. It's a really lovely way to bring modelling alive and show why modelling is important in order to preserve history and also demonstrate history and make it much more real than just reading a book, because it can be quite hard to really, appreciate what people went through when you're just sort of reading on a page. This is the South Atlantic SIG. Again, another staple of model shows in general, but also of Telford. Falklands again featuring quite heavily during the course of this display. We've got Argentinian stuff over here as well, which I won't lie, Argentinian aircraft I find fascinating, particularly like, you know, the Buccaneer and the IR-63 Pampa, which came, you know, after the war. What is VC-10 as well, which again, my dad served on VC-10, so it means a lot to me every time I see them. I just get a little smile and remember flying on them as a child, and I remember when testing the cookers out one day. This is the Latin Aviation SIG. So the Latin Aviation SIG has a few Mexican displays in there. There was a couple of Peruvian aircraft. I think this is really awesome. It's an area of aviation that often gets overlooked, even though there is, you know, one of the largest manufacturers, Embraer, who are situated in Brazil. So, you know, weird that it gets overlooked. Now, I couldn't see a name for this. It said any colour other than grey, green and brown. So it was like, basically don't just do camo, which is pretty much my mantra. So I'm happy to see this. McDonald's theming on this aircraft I find weirdly hilarious. And a couple of display aircraft here, obviously a Yellowjack, Thunderbird, and then a TSR-2, and they did this Eurofighter in a sort of a tribute to the Queen, which I never thought of or considered, but looked absolutely stunning in purple. This unfortunately is out of focus. I really do apologise. It does happen from time to time. Sometimes you just don't realise until you get home, and then you're like, oh, crap. Postman Pat and his hot rod though, it looks amazing, and Jess just looks so at home in that hot rod. She just doesn't care. And we've got Wallace and Gromit as well. I realised afterwards there was a third one I didn't take a picture of because it's like a wacky races theme, so I really regret that I didn't get all three of them. It's such a shame. Now this is a juniors like presentation or club, I think it's called. So it's basically showing children modelers, and I think this is amazing. A lot of creativity and thought went into these, so yeah, and it's great to see newer modelers coming up. So this is the Submarine Warfare SIG. I'm not someone who is like into this at all. Submarines are a wild world for me, so just thought I'd again show you the whole table, and then we'll move on to the Brampton section 2, which is their more general section, I guess, and this C3605 really took the spotlight for me there. We're now heading over to under new management. Basically, anytime something has changed from its original operator to another operator, so you can see a lot of German aircraft in RAF colours and vice versa. You might see things that are a bit different, like there's Mosquito that's in Belgian service, and we're also going to see the P-38 in Italian service, which literally looks like it should have been an Italian aircraft in the first place. And this is technically not, because it's an Avia built ME-262, which was a real thing. Like Czechoslovakia like genuinely had their own built ME-262s, which is so often overlooked. This is another one of the airline assistants. This is AAA SIG. Love the Flybe purple here. It looks beautiful on this Doubtland Dash 8. Really love seeing them. They used to fly over near where my parents lived all the time. I loved them. And after this, we're at the Great War SIG. And again, another really poignant display. I do love it. I have shown a lot of it before though, so I did skip over it a little bit just for time for the video, because I knew the video was starting to get a bit long. We've headed over to Norfolk Scale Model Group just to try and make sure we show some variety here. And this display had stuff I don't think I've seen this before. It's like a flying recovery boat. And then we've got is it the Walrus here, which looks amazing. I think it's cotton wool used in the water. Really, really creative. These little hot roddy, junky car things that look great too. So this is the WMP SIG. I'm not sure if it's just sort of a collection of people who themselves are sort of all linked, and that's sort of where the SIG lies in. I'm assuming that's what it is, because the actual display itself is really interestingly varied. It's just anything and everything, and you can see some sort of Space Marines behind this Spider, this really old school tractor. Really, really, really interesting display there. After that we have Abingdon. I really like the black and yellow. It actually really pops. You got this Argosy here. I've always thought the Argosy is just such a bizarre aircraft. And this little repair scene I think looks great. And this guy is smoking a cigarette like, oh, can you fix my car please? Following on from that, then we've got Aldingbourne. Again, I don't think I've seen this club before. That on my memory is just like so much more shocking than I thought. Also, I love the use of water in this scene where the tank tracks come off. Amazing. And look at him looking through his binoculars, looking for the target for the AA gun. And I mean, pink car. I'm a cliche, guys. Come on, we get this. And this Stuka with a snake all the way through it. Terrifying. And now over to the UK Army Aviation. So this is mainly like close support aircraft and helicopters that the Army have used over the years. This unfortunately was out of focus, but it's a Squirrel. It's a training helicopter that they do use, and these are some of sort of the microlights that they do use as well. This is a de Havilland Chipmunk, which was a training aircraft. Obviously, they did have some close air support aircraft that you had to be trained for. Heading over to Rutland then. Now, Rutland is one we've seen at a couple of shows as well. And look at that Dalek in the corner. Wow, that's amazing. I really love this layout in the middle. I know it's so simple, but it really does make you just appreciate modelling, doesn't it? And then we've got this Zilla over here, and then we've got the Concorde sort of prototype scheme, which is gorgeous. Now this is sort of newer, I think, for Telford this year, and it's Gunpla, so it's pretty much like, you know, Gundam or any sort of, I guess, anime style mecha, because there's some Digimon on there as well. It's a really, really nice change, and this is becoming like the up and coming thing for bringing people into modelling, so it's really great that we are appreciating it and embracing it at places like Telford as well. We're now at Derby City, so Derby City uses their vibrant red to pop their aircraft off. A lot of information present, so if you do want to read about them, then, you know, by all means you can stand there for hours reading. For some reason, I don't have a video of their entire display, but this is Red Dragon Modelers, and they did a lot of really cool dioramas. Like, look at this classic from antiquity. This swordfish getting ready for takeoff on a stormy night. This truck just dumping off at the quarry. Ugh, really, really cool stuff. We're now heading over to the Scottish Aviation SIG. Not a SIG I think I've seen before. Now I think of Scottish Aviation, I think of the Pioneer, Twin Pioneer and the Bulldog. The Bulldog actually originally being a Bassett design, but developed after they went into administration, or started being developed from the pup, and then heading over to when they did go into administration. Also got the Grub Tutor there as well, which I've actually flown in. We're now at Wirral. They've got a couple of those sort of deconstructed model kits in the frames there on the bottom that you can see. Very high up display actually, but because they've used that height, their display actually feels quite spacious and spaced out. Got this Westland Whirlwind here, and the Sea King. I love these bases where they've got like the box art behind them. I think they really looked quite special. And this A4 scheme from Argentina, I don't know why, it just really appeals to me. I think it looks fantastic. Now over to Beaver. I said your name right for once, because I've said your name wrong in like almost every video for this year, but finally said it right. They've got a diorama at the end as well, which is astounding. Oh, and this Italian Starfighter, I forgot they had this. It looks amazing. This is the diorama. I just think this looks great. Really dynamic, really action-packed. It's just stunning. It's obviously just taken over from Italian control. Got the Canberra SIG here. Very lucky that I got to see the Canberra fly as a child. I'm very sad that it's no longer obviously in service. So this is IPMS Lancashire. Really amazing display. There's some real pops of colour that come through with the tabletop elements like this, which she said was Halloween themed Warhammer design. This BF-109 that's down to a Spitfire, and the movement of the propeller looks fantastic. And this tank being transported, I don't think I've ever seen anything like this. It looks amazing. Now we're over to Manchester, and Manchester's display. I don't really think I've seen Manchester that often. The Typhoon is dominating the display though. It looks amazing. It's got the Sukhoi behind it, the F-15. Looks really great. The Buccaneer in the, again, old school naval scheme. And the flyer from Terminator 2. I definitely remember this. I must have seen them at some point in history. We now head over to Warrington. They've got this olivey dark green scheme to me there. Hop, and this Terminator, is it? I think it's terrifying. We've got this Viggen. Again, everyone loves the Viggen and Splinter scheme. There's a mountain next to it. After that, we've got Merseyside. Again, they've got this plastic in the front, which I'm not a massive fan of, but the rigging on this biplane, however, I am an absolute fan of. And this 201 horsepower loco, it says, I think it looks actually really nice. This is the Universal Modelling Society. I think this is Birmingham based again. Love the ME262 and the Fugger flying around at this. This is the obviously the Fugger of the Irish Air Corps, and this little Fiat, which I think looks really cute. I love the, well, I mean, it's the Italian Airlines livery that really does it for me, let's be honest. At Leicestershire though, there's a lot of F-16 action in the middle, a lot of solo display aircraft in the middle, which I'm kind of a massive fan of. Got the Zeus display team, or display aircraft from Greece. We've got Solo Turk, which is made for the 100th anniversary of the Turkish aviation. And we've got the Dutch F-16, which no longer really flies, but that was its legendary scheme, which it did a duo with its the Apache in a similar scheme. We're now heading over to Hinckley. Now they've got this big view of stripes and spots, honey. They're in season this year. I did not get this memo because I have nothing really with spots or stripes, so guess I need to buy some new outfits because these B-17s and B-24s are popping. We're now heading over to Coventry and Warwickshire, who have a crazy camo theme. Oh my gosh, I kept seeing camo scheme. Wow, that's really hard for me to say for some reason. Love this F-104. I think it looks amazing. And there's another one. I recognise this scheme more though. I can't remember the names of either of them though, but they look amazing. And this is the old style Ukrainian blue scheme. We've got Milton Keynes again. We've been to their show this year, which I think was the last one that will happen at the venue they were currently at. So maybe that changes for next year. I didn't see anything immediately in front of it. I did see something I really wanted to take a picture of though, so we'll definitely go on to that in a moment. So we have Napoleon. This is an iconic pose crossing the Alps, so not surprising. And then this puppeteering diorama, which I think looks fantastic, and a Ukrainian hind, which topical and appropriate. The Spanish Civil War is what we're looking at now, and again, I've seen these a couple of times at different shows, and I always love them. The dioramas that he does are astounding. He grabs so much action into such a tiny little sheet. It's amazing. Like, I love these so much. Every time I say them, I'd say how much I love them, because they're so cool. I could never do anything as skillful as, I mean, look at this. They're taking cover behind the vehicle, defending themselves. It's just amazing. I'm sorry if I'm just sort of repeating myself with compliments, but I have so much respect for this work. We're now heading over to South Somerset, and I saw these, I think, I want to say Thornbury? I think that's where I saw them. I love the Patrouille Suisse diorama with the Hawker Hunter and the F5 Tiger too. That looks really, really amazing. I mean, I can't say no to display aircraft, can I? We're now arriving at the What If SIG, and obviously this is just anything that could have been, would have been, or perhaps should have been. So a lot of interesting choice here. You can literally just do anything that could have happened in alternative history, pretty much. This is like some sort of shorts Sunderland but turboprop, I guess. And this reminds me of sort of the late AW sort of jet styles. Arrow in RAF scheme, I actually think looks kind of on point, honestly. Project Cancelled is somewhat similar. It looks at aircraft that were actually being developed but then were unfortunately cancelled. For me, the Nimrod AEW will always hold a special place in my heart for being one of the most interesting looking aircraft, at least. We've got the Scandinavian countries coming up next then with the Danish, Swedish and Finnish SIGs. I tend to do these all together, so I've continued that theme here. This Danish F-16 gets a picture every single time I see it, because how could you not? And this Hawk and Nimrod looks amazing. I love the intricate flags on the tail there. The newest Danish arsenal is the F-35. And then we're on to Sweden with this Bulldog in the splinter camouflage scheme that it had. And the B-18, which if you've ever been to the Flygvapen Museum, you'll be able to see sort of a reconstruction of. The J-22, the famous Swedish indigenous fighter. And then we've got a Fokker CX with skis in Finnish service. And the Learjet, which I think we've seen a few times, but it's also in Finnish service and looks great. And the Fuga Magister, famously used by Finland. We're moving on to the sci-fi and fantasy SIG now. So again, this is just pretty much anything you want, and there is one thing that caught my eye here, and it's going to make me rewatch an entire series, Farscape. I'm pretty sure this is from Farscape, right? It's the little cleaners that live on Moira, and we've also got Star Trek here as well. I'm definitely watching Farscape after I finish this, by the way. We've got Ipswich here then, the T-160 and the B-1B on the left there really, I think, dominate this display, and then it's flanked by the Argosy and the VC-10, the Tu-160 Blackjack in a Ukrainian scheme there, and the VC-10 in the old duo white and light grey scheme with the blue lightning bolt down the middle. West Suffolk IPMX then is the next one we're looking at. This Cauldron 714 R Racer looks really, really elongated, really weird shape, and this F2 Mitsubishi jet fighter, which is obviously very closely related to the F-16, but I love the scheme that the Japanese aircraft use. Okay, this is looking at Womble, and this display just went on forever. It's massive. I definitely know we've seen this before, because with the Blackburn aircraft in the middle, the really interestingly shaped biplane. I think we've taken a picture of the Hayford before, but hey, we've got it again today. This bike also looks really cool, this Harley Davidson, and we've got this AN2, the Colt gunship, so that was really unique. This Handley Page Type E, I don't think I've seen before, but reminded me of the Junkers, was it C1? The sort of like owl-shaped aircraft. So now we are at Middleton tuning, and they have Thomas going through the middle, which I love. They said Thomas was going much faster at the start of the day, but by the time I got there, I think it was about 3 o'clock. And they were like, yeah, he definitely is going a lot slower. He definitely will need new batteries for tomorrow. So yeah, I thought that was a really, really lovely display. My camera decided to focus on what I'm assuming is Hawkeye there. Got a lot of marble stuff on this display as well, which is not to be snuffed at. And I love the Angel Interceptor here. I really need to get myself a Angel Interceptor from Airfix, but they're just so hard to come by, and a giant Pikachu, how could I not love it? We've got Bolton here as well. Now, this is another instance where I thought that it was one display, turned out it was 2 displays, because it goes into the training aircraft SIG, which you can see I'm just looking at there. This is not part of Bolton, it's a separate display, but I didn't realise at first, even though there's a very clear sign, but apparently I was just really determined to film it all. C-27J Spartan there, the development of the J222, and this tank that is very much stuck in the mud. These 2 beautifully decaled cars here, and this Gripen, the JA-39, in a splinter camouflage scheme. Now we're looking at the training aircraft SIG. Probably a SIG I should belong to, but hey, I haven't joined any SIGs yet. I said I'd make one maybe one day, but we'll see. So we're now at South Cheshire, which is crew model club to you and me, and yeah, I really love this display. I love the Star Wars pod racer. I think that looks amazing. It's so good. And this looks really cool as well, with them reassembling this wagon with the broken wheel. The ATS2, this background just looks stunning. And this German is about to try and grenade this Soviet. Probably a counter-attack, I imagine. We're now at southeast Essex, and there's only 2 more to go after this, guys. So you're nearly at the end if you've been watching all in one go. If not, I hope you've taken breaks and enjoyed the show so far. We're so close to the end now. This T2 Buckeye in Venezuelan colours, awesome. This F-18, which was made by a 10-year-old, which is great to see that there are new modellers coming through up the ranks and probably going to be better than me. We are now at Wakefield with their distinctive burgundy backdrop. And yeah, I really love the Alpha Jets here, the kinetic one, and they've got the French Air Force one. I'm assuming these are the new KP kits, I think. So I think these are 172nd, right? And KP has just released those ones, so I need to get myself on and build them. And the T28 here as well. Now, I feel really bad about this, but I somehow managed to miss that the Airfix SIG was right next to Airfix. It was just sort of nestled in with some traders. It was a bit weird, but not their fault or their choice. But I unfortunately just took the pictures on my phone instead of my camera, so I do apologise. I'll just have to be more vigilant next time. I really hope I haven't missed any of the stands. But yeah, I'm glad I managed to catch them. And then Film Fangs next time as well. Again, anything in sort of film or TV, and I just really love them too. They're a really vibrant, beautiful stand that adds a lot of difference to the sea of grey and green that we have. Right, we are at Hornchurch now. Spoken to one of the members several times at the shows. We both have an absolute love and admiration for the Fouga. As you can see in the middle there, they are very, very present on this display. And I always remember Hornchurch because they have these beautiful tabletop scale models of pop culture in TV and cinematic universe characters, which I absolutely love. Unfortunately, one of the Fugas did get a little bit out of focus, I do apologise, but this Irish Spitfire is gorgeous as well. A Lotus here, that looks terrifying to drive. I do love that we go from that though then to Richard, King Richard coming out the parking lot, which I think is a really unique interpretation. And then we have Monty Python with the Black Knight, and "'Tis but a scratch." V for Vendetta here, slightly out of focus, I do apologise. I should have manually focused that, that's my bad. And the Starlight, which just looks superb. Futurama is present here as well with Zoidberg and Bender. Bender looking very angry at Zoidberg. And we've got Red Dwarf as well, which is amazing. This Bristol Britannia looks fantastic in African safari colours. We're now at the last stand. This is West Middlesex, and there's this diorama at the end with this hawk being scrapped is really what caught my eye, and I always have loved their sort of presentation of their banner. So yeah, pretty much wraps it up for IPMS Scale Model World 2022. Now there are some things I think we do need to talk about a little bit, just whilst we have the end here. So first of all, it looks like it was a really good success for some of the really important traders and stands. The Airfix stand was always busy, all their staff were always talking to people, which is fantastic to see people engaged with, you know, big brands. And it looked like all the traders were doing really well as well, but I've also heard some stuff in the background about a lot of traders pulling out due to pricing, feeling like they can't compete anymore, they're not going to make their money back. And we've heard the same thing at other places like Fairford, where there used to be a much bigger modelling presence, and now that's gone and you just get like furniture, because apparently that's something you need to buy at an air show. So yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens after the show now, what IPMS come out with, what their announcements are for next year. I personally really enjoyed this year. It felt a lot more full. I was glad to see all the international participants back. That's why I picked them at the start of the video. I felt like the show had a lot more of an atmosphere to it. There wasn't a lot of fear compared to last year. Last year you had to show your COVID pass. There were some people who weren't super into that. It was a very different atmosphere. This year felt a lot more chill, but also it felt busier, it felt more alive. It feels like modelling's got a bit of its mojo back. I don't know how the show is obviously on Sunday because I've not gone. I only went for Saturday in the end. I was going to go both days, but I ended up so tired. I couldn't go for another day, so I decided to stick at home for the next day. Thanks for watching the video. I really appreciate it. Hit the subscribe button and notification bell to be notified of every new video on Mondays. You'll also be able to see me stream live on YouTube. Thanks again. I really appreciate it. Have fun modelling!